Welcome to your reading, loves. I am Laurel, Elder of the Silver Swords, so very nice to have you here. There appears to be a clash between old ghosts and new fire. The story begins in a beautifully appointed apartment, the 9 of Cups made manifest, filled with expensive wine, soft lighting, and the hollow silence of a couple who has run out of small talk. For months, the air has been thick with the 3 of Wands reversed. They were supposed to move to a new city, or perhaps buy a house, but every plan has withered on the vine. The future is a ghost town. The 8 of Wands reversed has turned their communication into a minefield of unread receipts and weaponized silence. One partner sits in the bedroom, the 9 of Swords personified, head in hands. They are scrolling through old photos of an ex, the 5 of Cups, wondering if they traded a passionate fire for a gilded cage. They are mourning a version of love that ended years ago, convinced that the spilled wine of their past was better than the vintage currently in their glass. In the living room, the other partner, the Queen of Wands, finally snaps. She has spent months trying to moderate the tension, playing the role of the peacemaker, temperance reversed. She has tried to pour water on the fire, tried to balance their misery, and tried to make excuses for the stall. But tonight, the judgment card sounds like a thunderclap. She doesn't scream. She glows. She stands up, sets her glass down, and the dilemma reaches its breaking point. She realizes that by trying to save the relationship, she is killing herself. She stops being the anxious fixer and becomes the sovereign. She walks into the bedroom not to argue, but to deliver a verdict. "I am done trying to balance our ghosts," she says. "You are staring at a puddle on the floor, while I am standing right here. I am a queen, not a ghost hunter. Either you stand up and drink from the cups we have, or I am leaving this palace tonight." The room vibrates with the energy of judgment. The limbo of the reversed wands is shattered. There is no more maybe. There is no more we'll see. The partner with the swords is forced to look up. They are faced with a choice: stay in the 9 of Swords nightmare of their own making, or answer the call of the Queen. The drama isn't in the fight, it's in the terrifying clarity that the middle ground, temperance reversed, has officially dissolved. The story ends on the threshold. The door is open. The bags are packed in the mind before they are packed in the room. The ships are finally moving because someone finally had the courage to burn the dock. In drama, as in life, the villain is usually indecision. The hero is the one who finally hears the trumpet of judgment and refuses to spend one more second in the 9 of Swords. The moral of the story is that hell is not a place, but the refusal to leave a hallway. When a relationship transforms into a gilded cage of silence and ghosts, it reveals a few final, piercing truths. The temperance reversed struggle proves that mercy is sometimes found in the break, not the mend. By trying to balance a situation that was fundamentally lopsided, the characters only extended their own suffering. Compromise is a virtue, only when both parties are moving toward the same goal. If one is looking at the horizon, 3 of Wands reversed, and the other is looking at the floor, 5 of Cups, balance is just a slow form of suffocation. Your radiance is your responsibility. The Queen of Wands reminds us that no one else can hold the torch for your own life. When you wait for a partner to validate your fire or allow your progress, you hand them the keys to your prison. The Queen's power returned the moment she stopped asking for a ship to arrive and realized she already owned the harbour. Sovereignty is not an act of aggression. It is an act of clarity. Grief is a room, not a home. The 5 of Cups and 9 of Cups reveal that you cannot build a future on the site of a memorial. Dwelling on what used to be or who they used to be is a betrayal of who is standing there now. If you stay in the room with the spilled wine, eventually the fresh wine turns to vinegar too. Maturity is the strength to stop being a tourist in your own tragedy. The trumpet always sounds twice. The Judgment card over the 9 of Swords teaches us that anxiety is the noise of a soul that hasn't made a decision. The first time the trumpet sounds, it's a whisper of intuition. The second time, it's a roar that shatters the windows. The truth will eventually outrun your ability to ignore it. You can choose to answer the call with grace or wait for the walls to fall down around you. The drama ends not when the fight is won, but when the choice is made. Peace doesn't come from the partner changing. It comes from the Queen deciding that her 9 of Cups is no longer up for negotiation. So as you and your future self continue your journey, the one who is no longer pacing the floor of the 9 of Swords, the one who has already heard the trumpet and answered, and is now walking the grounds of a kingdom they built from the wreckage, always remember, the silence was your sculptor. Remember the months when the 3 and 8 of Wands were held in reverse. You thought you were being punished by a stagnant world, but you were actually being tempered. The universe held back your ships because you weren't yet the captain who could sail them. It forced you into the quiet so you would finally hear your own voice over the noise of your expectations. Looking back, you see that the delay was the only thing that kept you from settling for a life that was too small for you. The spilled wine was a libation. You once stood over those 5 of Cups, weeping for the losses you thought would break you. But now, standing in the fullness of your 9 of Cups, you realize that those cups had to spill. They were filled with old versions of love and safety that would have turned to poison if you had stayed. You didn't lose them. You surrendered them to make room for the vintage you are drinking now. The grief was just the price of admission to your own joy. The decision was the doorway. Remember the night the 9 of Swords finally stopped screaming. It wasn't because the external world changed, but because you did. You stopped trying to moderate the impossible, temperance reversed, and finally accepted the judgment call. You realized that you could not be both a victim of your past and the creator of your future. You chose the fire of the Queen of Wands, and the moment you did, the limbo vanished. Never forget that you are the one who turned the dilemma into a declaration. You learned that you are not a maybe in anyone else's story. You are the author of your own. Your worth is no longer a negotiation. It is a fact. When life goes quiet again, and it will, do not fear the pause. You've been here before. You know that the Queen doesn't chase the horizon. She commands the tides. So walk on. Stay awake. Stay on the throne. The music you hear now is the sound of your own life finally beginning.